I never thought a single text could change my life, but there I was, sitting in my car at a red light, grinning at my phone like a fool. On the screen was a photo of a pregnancy test, 2 pink lines. After 4 years of trying, it finally happened. I couldn't wait to show Aiden. My name is Audrey, and that moment of pure happiness was the last I'd feel for a long, long time. I remember every detail of those few seconds. The way the afternoon sun lit up my dashboard. The faint scent of the air freshener Aiden always joked about. The song playing on the radio, a cheesy pop hit about forever love that I usually roll my eyes at but suddenly felt just right. The light turned green, and I started driving, already imagining Aiden's face when he saw the picture. He'd been dropping hints about wanting kids since our wedding, and his mom, Alyssa, had been asking about grandchildren at every family dinner. I never saw the truck coming. The crash came from the left, a violent smash of metal and glass. Everything spun and time slowed down. In the chaos, one thought flashed in my mind. Protect the phone. Aiden has to see the picture. When the world finally stopped moving, I couldn't feel my face. Warm liquid dripped down my neck. Somewhere far away, I heard screaming. A man's voice kept repeating, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." The words floated around me like leaves in the wind. "Ma'am, can you hear me?"
"Don't move," someone said.
A paramedic leaned into what was left of my window. "We're going to get you out." I tried to speak, to tell them about the baby, but my mouth wouldn't work. The last thing I remember was someone holding my hand and promising everything's going to be okay. They lied. I woke up 5 days later in the hospital. Aiden was there, asleep in a chair beside my bed. He looked awful, unshaven, his clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. I tried to lift my arm to reach for him, but it felt too heavy, like it wasn't mine. "Aiden," I whispered. My voice barely made a sound. He jolted awake, his eyes locking on mine. For a moment, I saw something in his expression, something that made my stomach tighten. Then he smiled, but it didn't feel real. "Hey," he said, taking my hand. "You had us worried." I tried to smile back, but my face didn't feel right. It felt stiff, like it didn't belong to me. "The baby," I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. Aiden's hand tightened on mine. "I'm so sorry, Audrey," he said, his voice shaking. "The doctors did everything they could." I closed my eyes as the world seemed to spin beneath me. Through the haze of pain medication, I heard the door open. The familiar scent of Alyssa's perfume reached me before she spoke. "Aiden, honey, the doctor needs to talk to you," she said softly, her voice careful. "About the reconstruction options," Aiden said quickly. "I'll be right back." He squeezed my hand and let go. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep, but their voices drifted in from the hallway through the partially open door. "She's going to need a lot of surgeries," Aiden said, his voice low. "Her face, Mom. I don't know if I can." "Should, darling," Alyssa interrupted. "We'll figure it out, one step at a time." Lying there, I felt silent tears slide down my ruined face. They were out there, talking about me like I was some project to fix, a problem to solve. In that moment, something inside me broke. The warmth and hope I had always carried began to disappear, replaced by something cold and hard. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment my old self, the Audrey Griffin who was a loving wife, a hopeful mother-to-be, and an eternal optimist, started to fade. Something else, something darker and stronger, began to take her place. Coming home from the hospital felt like stepping into someone else's life. Everything looked the same. Our neat suburban house with its perfect lawn, the welcome mat Alyssa gave us as a housewarming gift, even the faint smell of Aiden's cologne in the entryway. But nothing felt right anymore. "I set up the guest bedroom downstairs," Aiden said, carrying my bag. "The doctor said stairs might be hard for a while." I noticed he wouldn't look directly at me. For weeks in the hospital, and he still couldn't meet my eyes. "Thanks," I muttered, my fingers brushing the bandages covering half my face. "I've invited Mom over for dinner," he added quickly. "She wants to help with your recovery plan." Of course she did. Alyssa Griffin never missed a chance to take charge, especially when it came to protecting her son's perfect life. The guest room felt cold and lifeless, like a hotel room. Aiden had cleared out all my things from our bedroom upstairs and arranged them here with robotic precision. My makeup vanity, useless now, sat in the corner with the mirror turned to face the wall. "Do you need anything?" Aiden asked from the doorway, phone in hand. "I have a fewer calls to make, but—" "I'm fine," I said, even though I wasn't. What was the point of saying otherwise? Alyssa arrived right at 5, as expected. She came armed with casseroles and plenty of opinions. I sat at the dining room table, watching Alyssa arrange flowers in a vase while Aiden poured wine. "The doctor said the scarring might get better over time," Aiden said, avoiding eye contact with either of us. "Well, there are always options," Alyssa replied, her voice overly cheerful. "I know an excellent plastic surgeon in the city. Very discreet." I stared at my untouched plate, pushing food around with my fork. "The insurance won't cover cosmetic procedures," I said quietly. "Oh, darling," Alyssa said, reaching across the table to pat my hand. "We have to think about Aiden's position at the firm. Image is everything in corporate marketing." My fork slipped from my hand, clattering onto the plate. "My face is an image problem, Mother?" I asked sharply. "Audrey," Aiden warned, but Alyssa carried on as if she hadn't heard. "I'm just being practical," she said. "Aiden has worked so hard to build his career. And now, with all the complications from the accident," she dabbed her lips with a napkin. "Well, sometimes life forces us to make hard choices." Complications. The word felt like poison in my mouth. "You mean losing the babies?" Aiden froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. We hadn't talked about the pregnancy since the hospital. He didn't even know I had planned to surprise him with the news that day. "Audrey," he started, but I cut him off. "Did you tell her about the baby, Aiden? Or just about your wife's ruined face?" Alyssa gasped, her hand flying to her throat. "A baby," she whispered. "It doesn't matter now," Aiden said quickly, standing up. "What matters is moving forward. Mother's right. We need to think practically." I looked at them both, my husband, who couldn't meet my eyes, and his mother, who wouldn't stop staring at my bandages. The perfect son and his perfect mother already planning my perfect recovery. "I think I need to lie down," I said, pushing back from the table. "Of course, dear," Alyssa called after me. "We'll figure everything out." In the guest room, their voices carried through the wall, muffled but clear enough. "Poor thing," Alyssa was saying. "But Aiden, you're still young. There will be other chances for children, once everything is settled." "Mom, please," Aiden said, sounding tired. "I'm just saying, you need to think about your future. Both of your futures." I touched the bandages on my face, feeling the rough gauze where smooth skin used to be. I thought about our wedding day, when Aiden used to say I looked like an angel.
Now he couldn't even look at me.
My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Griffin, my name is Maxime Cressy. I'm the father of the young man who caused your accident. Please, I need to speak with you." I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the screen. Through the wall, I could still hear Aiden and Alyssa planning my life without me. Something shifted inside me, not quite hope, but something stronger, something closer to purpose. I typed back a single word. "When?" For weeks after I'd come home, I found Aiden's whiskey bottle hidden behind the cleaning supplies under the kitchen sink. It was already half empty. I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't heard him stumbling around at 4 a.m., talking on his phone in what he thought was a whisper. The bandages had come off the day before, and I avoided mirrors now, but I couldn't avoid hearing Aiden's late-night conversations. "You should have seen her face today," he slurred to someone, laughing softly. "Like that movie, you know, Two-Face from Batman." There was a pause, followed by more drunken laughter. I know, I shouldn't joke, but man, you try living with it." I stood in the dark kitchen, holding his hidden whiskey bottle, and felt something break deep inside me. The next morning, Aiden acted like everything was normal. He kissed me on the unscarred side of my face before heading to work. "Big presentation today," he said, adjusting his tie. "Don't wait up." I waited until his car drove away before heading upstairs to our bedroom. I hadn't been up there since coming home, respecting his unspoken rule of keeping me out of sight in the guest room. Everything was exactly as I'd left it the morning of the accident, except for one thing. My old art supplies were missing from the closet. I found them in the garage, buried under Christmas decorations. The wooden box still had my name carved into it, a wedding gift from my grandmother. Inside, the brushes lay untouched, along with the expensive oil paints Aiden had once bought me when I mentioned wanting to paint again. "You should focus on more practical things," Alyssa had said back then. "Aiden needs a wife, not an artist." I set up the easel in the guest room, facing the window. Morning light poured across the canvas as I mixed colors, letting muscle memory take over. Red for anger, black for grief, yellow for the hope I used to feel. The brush moved on its own, creating something raw and powerful. Hours passed without me noticing. When the front door opened and closed, I heard Aiden's footsteps pause outside my door. "Mother's here for dinner," he called. I didn't respond, adding another streak of red to the canvas. The door opened. "Audrey, what are you?" Aiden stopped mid-sentence. "What is that supposed to be?" I stepped back from the painting. It was a woman's face, split down the middle. One side was flawless and perfect. The other was distorted, fractured, with a wine glass pressed to smiling lips. "It's you," Alyssa said from behind him, her voice sharp. "Or rather, what you've become." I looked at Aiden as his face turned pale. "I call it two-face," I said quietly. "Funny, right?" Aiden's mouth opened, but no words came out. His eyes, though, betrayed him. "Don't you understand?" I asked softly, though I already knew the answer. "I heard you last night, Aiden. And the night before that. And the night before that," I said calmly. Alyssa quickly stepped between us. "Audrey, Aiden has been under so much stress. If you could just try to understand." "Understand what?" I snapped, turning to face them fully. I saw them both flinch. That my husband makes jokes about my scars? That he hides bottles all over the house? That he can't even sleep in the same room as me anymore? "That's not fair," Aiden protested. "I'm trying to..." "To what?" I interrupted. "Keep up appearances?" I pointed to the painting. "Is this the kind of appearance you want?" Alyssa stiffened, her voice cold. "Perhaps this outburst is a sign you need professional help." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that made them both step back. "Professional help? Like that plastic surgeon you keep pushing? The one who can fix Aiden's image problems?" "Audrey, please," Aiden said, reaching for me. I stepped away. "Don't worry," I said, picking up my brush again. "I'm already working on fixing everything." They left the room, whispering to each other. I turned back to my canvas, adding the final touch, a faint text message in the background. "Tomorrow at 3. I'll explain everything. Maxime Cressy." I stepped back and studied my work. Both sides of the face in the painting were smiling, but for very different reasons. Tomorrow, I'd meet the father of the man who destroyed my life. Tomorrow, everything would change. The cafe Maxime Cressy chose was exactly what I expected. Quiet, expensive, and far from anywhere Aiden or Alyssa might go. I wore a scarf partially covering my face. It drew less attention than the medical mask I'd gotten used to wearing in public. Maxime stood as I approached the table. I recognized the guilt in his eyes immediately. I'd seen it in the mirror enough lately. The look of someone haunted by what they couldn't change. "Mrs. Griffin," he said softly. "Thank you for coming." "Audrey," I corrected as I sat down. "Your son, he's in rehab?" Maxime's hands tightened around his coffee cup.
He was.
The accident happened after he left his third facility. I should have seen it coming. A waitress approached, hesitating when she saw my scarf before forcing a polite smile. I ordered black coffee and waited for her to leave before speaking again. "Why did you want to meet?" Maxime pulled a folder from his bag and slid it across the table. "These are brochures from the top reconstructive surgeons in the country. I've already spoken with Dr. Isaac in Jacksonville. He's willing to take your case." I stared at the glossy pages filled with before and after photos of smiling patients. "Insurance won't cover it," I said flatly. "I'm not talking about insurance. Maxime said, his voice cracking. I'm offering to pay for everything. It's the least I can do. I can do this after what my son, Maxime began, but I cut him off. Why? The word came out sharper than I meant. Because I failed him, Maxime said simply. And in failing him, I failed you too. Money can't fix everything, but it can fix this. He gestured vaguely toward my face. I opened the brochure, scanning Dr. Isaac's credentials. The cost listed made my stomach twist. It was more than Aiden earned in a year. Your husband doesn't know you're here, Maxime said. It wasn't a question. No. Good. He leaned in closer. Because there's something else you need to know. I gripped my coffee cup as he continued. The night of the accident, my son wasn't alone in the car. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent, waiting. There was a woman with him, Maxime said, his voice heavy. She's someone's wife. They'd been meeting at the Golden Leaf Hotel every Saturday for months. The Golden Leaf. The same place where Aiden had his so-called weekly client meetings. The woman survived. Maxime went on. No injuries. She left the scene before the police arrived. My son was too drunk to remember her name, but he remembered where she worked. He slid a paper across the table. I glanced at it, feeling my stomach churn. Griffin Marketing Associates. You're lying, I whispered. I wish I were, Maxime said, his expression grim. For both our sakes. He pulled out his phone and showed me a grainy security camera image. A woman hurried through a hotel lobby, followed by a man in a gray suit. A very familiar suit. Aiden, I murmured, my voice barely audible. Why are you showing me this? Because you deserve to know the whole truth, Maxime said. And because I'm offering you a choice. He tapped the brochures on the table. Dr. Isaac can do the surgery next month. He can make you look exactly like you did before.
He paused.
Or he can make you look like someone else. Someone Aiden and his friend wouldn't recognize. I thought about Aiden's late-night phone calls, his cruel jokes, the way he avoided looking at me. I thought about Alyssa's constant hints about divorce and fresh starts. Why would I want that? I asked quietly. Maxime's smile was sad but knowing. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's making them live with their guilt while you move on. While you become someone stronger. I touched the edge of my scarf, feeling the rough scars underneath. When does Dr. Isaac need an answer? Take your time. Maxime stood, leaving a business card beside the brochures. But remember, this isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about choosing who you want to be. I sat there long after he left, staring at the security camera photo of Aiden next to an unfamiliar woman. My heart raced, my emotions tangled in anger, betrayal, and something I hadn't felt in weeks, clarity. Finally, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Maxime. I choose someone new. His reply came almost instantly. Welcome to your second chance, Audrey. I walked home slowly, thinking about what to pack, what to leave behind, and how to disappear completely. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't ruining someone else's life. It's rebuilding your own. Jacksonville felt like a different world. Dr. Isaac's private clinic was on the top floor of a sleek building made of glass and chrome. Everything about it felt quiet and discreet. I told Aiden I was visiting my aunt in Kentucky for a few months to heal emotionally. He seemed relieved, happy to have an excuse not to deal with me. The changes will be significant, Dr. Isaac said, studying my file, but subtle enough to look natural. The goal isn't to make a new person. It's to reveal who you could have been. I looked at the digital mock-ups on his tablet. The woman in the after images wasn't me, but she wasn't a stranger either. She was who I might have been in another life, one where Aiden's mistress hadn't been in that car. How long until I can? I hesitated, unsure how to finish the sentence. Return? Revenge? Start over? For months for full recovery, Dr. Isaac said kindly. Maxime mentioned you'd be staying at his apartment during the process. I nodded. Maxime's San Marco apartment had become my safe place. It was filled with his late wife's art collection and rarely used now that he spent most of his time at his Connecticut home. The first surgery was scheduled for tomorrow. That night, I sat in Maxime's apartment, watching the city lights twinkle like stars. My phone buzzed. It was Aiden. "How's your aunt?" His voice sounded slightly slurred. "Saturday night. Golden Leaf Hotel night." "Fine," I replied, my fingers brushing the surgical consent forms on the coffee table. "How's work?"
Busy.
"Listen, Mother wants to know when you're coming home. She's worried about appearances." Of course she was. I pictured them at their usual dinner, talking about how to handle me. The damaged goods? "I need time," I said, the lie slipping out easily now.
Right.
"Well, take care of yourself." He hung up before I could say anything else. A moment later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Maxime. "Ready for tomorrow?" I started to reply yes, but stopped when another message appeared. It was from an unknown number. "Are you sure you want to know the truth about that night?" My hands trembled as I typed back.
Who is this?
Someone who was there. Someone who knows what really happened. "Meet me at Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. Midnight." I stared at the message, my heart pounding. It could be a trap. Or it could be her, the woman from the hotel. The smart choice was to ignore it, to stick with my plan and go through with the surgery. But something deep inside me needed to know. At 12:15, I took a cab to Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. The air was cool, and the Hudson River shimmered like black silk under the moonlight. A woman sat alone on a bench, her face hidden beneath a hoodie. "Mrs. Griffin," she said softly as I approached. I walked closer, and the woman pulled back her hood, revealing a face I knew from office party photos on Aiden's desk. "Audrey," I said, recognizing her. "Audrey from accounting." She looked at me, her eyes full of guilt. "He wasn't supposed to be there that night," she said quietly. "At the hotel. He was following me." "Suspicious?" I asked, the pieces starting to fall into place. She nodded. "When he saw who I was meeting, his client's wife," I said, finishing the thought. Audrey let out a bitter laugh. "Aiden caught us together. He was drunk and angry. He started making threats about exposing everything." She paused, her voice shaking. "That's when..." "When what?" I pressed. "When he called his friend. The guy who hit your car. He asked him to scare his cheating client's wife. Follow her car, freak her out a little." Her voice cracked. "But the guy was high, confused. He followed the wrong car." "He followed you?" The world spun around me. Aiden arranged the accident. Not yours. He didn't mean to." Audrey stood up, backing away. "I just thought you should know before you disappear." I watched her hurry off, my mind racing. All this time, I'd been planning to start over because of Aiden's lies and betrayal. But now I knew the truth. He wasn't just unfaithful. He was the reason I'd lost everything. My phone buzzed. It was Maxime. "Surgery prep starts at 6 a.m. Are you ready?" I stared at my reflection in the window of a passing car. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just become someone new. I'd become someone Aiden would never see coming. "Ready," I typed back. "But we need to change the plan." 4 months after my surgery, I stood outside our house in the rain. Unrecognizable. My new face, beautiful but completely different, felt like armor. In my bag were the divorce papers, sharp and final, like weapons. I had planned this moment perfectly. It was Saturday evening, the night Aiden would be home from his client meeting at the Golden Leaf, and Alyssa would be over for their weekly dinner, plotting my absence from their lives. My keys still worked. I stepped inside quietly, hearing their voices coming from the dining room. "The lawyers say if she doesn't respond soon, we can move forward with the annulment," Alyssa was saying. "Really, Aiden," she added, "it's for the best." That accident was a blessing in disguise. I stepped into the doorway, and they froze mid-conversation. "Hello, Aiden," I said calmly. He stared at me, blinking in confusion. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "I'm Michael Cressy," I said, using the name Maxime, and I had chosen. Maxime Cressy's niece. "I'm here about Bianca Griffin." His wine glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Alyssa stood quickly, her instincts kicking in to manage the situation. "Whatever this is about," she said, her voice firm, "we can discuss it privately." "Can we?" I asked, stepping forward. I placed the divorce papers on the table. Like you discussed arranging the accident that scarred your wife's face? The color drained from Aiden's face. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. Audrey from accounting does, I said, holding his gaze as the truth hit him like a slap. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Aiden's voice echoed through the room. Follow her car, scare her a little. That's not, I never meant, Aiden stammered, his face pale. You never meant for it to be me, I said, my voice calm and steady. Your pregnant wife, instead of your client's cheating spouse. Alyssa gasped. Pregnant? Oh, he didn't tell you that part? I said, turning to her. About the grandchild you lost because your perfect son wanted to teach someone a lesson? Aiden whispered my name, finally looking past the new face and seeing something familiar in my eyes. I pulled out another document and placed it on the table. This is a police report naming you as an accessory to the accident, I said. Audrey's sworn statement is attached. I stepped closer. Sign the divorce papers, I said softly, or everyone will find out the kind of man you really are. Aiden lunged for the police report, but his foot slipped on the spilled wine. He crashed into the china cabinet, glass shattering around him as he fell. Aiden! Alyssa cried, rushing to help him, but he pushed her away. Blood dripped from a cut on his hand as he got to his feet. You can't prove anything, he hissed, but his eyes were full of panic. Can't I replied, stepping back toward the door. Maxime Cressy's legal team would disagree. They're very eager to make amends for his son's part in this, especially now that they know who really orchestrated it. Wait, Aiden called as I reached the door.
Please, I'll sign.
Just don't tell anyone. Like you didn't tell anyone about our babies? I said, my voice cold. Like you didn't tell anyone you planned the accident? He looked at me, his face crumbling. I loved you, he said weakly. No, I said, touching my new face. You loved what I looked like. There's a difference. I placed the divorce papers on the table and walked out into the rain. Behind me, I heard Alyssa's shocked sobs and Aiden's frantic explanations, but I didn't look back. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Maxime. Is it done? I stared at the screen, unable to answer. The victory felt hollow, like ashes in my mouth. I had what I came for. Aiden's signature on the divorce papers, his perfect life falling apart, but it didn't feel like a win. I walked past the spot where Aiden used to park, where he'd kiss me goodbye each morning. Past the garden where we had once dreamed of building a nursery. Past all the plans and love that had died the night he chose revenge over me. Another text lit up my phone, this time from an unknown number. You're not the only one he hurt. There are others. We should talk. I sat in my car, the rain drumming on the roof, staring at the message. I thought exposing Aiden would feel like the end of something, but maybe it was just the start. The real question was, how far was I willing to go? The art gallery was buzzing with San Marcos elite, all here to see the work of the mysterious new artist everyone was talking about. My paintings lined the walls, faces twisted in pain and betrayal, beauty rising from darkness. Each one was signed with my new name, Michael Cressy. I adjusted my dress, still not used to the way my new face and identity fit me. Then I saw him.
Aiden.
He was standing in front of my centerpiece, a painting of a woman's face split between light and shadow, a wine glass reflecting flames. Remarkable work, a voice said beside me. I turned to see a man with kind eyes and paint-stained hands. I'm Colton Burpo, the gallery owner. He introduced himself. Claire, I replied, my focus slipping back to Aiden. He was staring at the painting's title, Saturday Nights at the Golden Leaf. Your pieces speak to transformation, Colton said, studying my work. Pain becoming power. Very personal. Before I could respond, Aiden's voice cut through the crowd. Where did you get your inspiration? His eyes were on me now, recognition flickering across his face. It had been 4 months since I'd handed him the divorce papers. He looked thinner, his once perfect suit hanging loose on his frame. Life experience, I said, meeting his gaze. Some people wear masks. I paint them. Audrey, he whispered, my real name slipping out like a prayer or a curse. Colton looked between us, sensing something was wrong. You know each other? No, I said firmly. Not anymore. Aiden grabbed my arm. We need to talk. Let go, I said, my voice cutting through the room. Heads turned to watch. Everything you took from me, he hissed. My reputation, my mother's respect, my position at the firm. Was revenge worth it? Was Saturday night at the Golden Leaf worth it? I pulled my arm free, staring him down. Was trying to hurt your client's wife worth what happened to me? To our baby? Colton stepped forward, protective, but I held up my hand. You want to know about inspiration, Aiden? I said, my voice steady. Look around. Every piece here tells a story. Stories about masks and lies. About men who destroy what they claim to love. I never meant to, he started. To hit my cars? I cut him off. No, you meant to hit someone else's. That makes it better. The room had gone silent, the weight of our confrontation filling the space. In the corner, I saw Maxime Cressy watching, calm but purposeful. Beside him stood Audrey from accounting, her face pale but determined. You're not the only one with stories to tell, I said, my voice echoing in the quiet room. I continued, my voice steady. Audrey's here. So are 4 other women from the office. They all have stories about Saturday nights, about threats, about accidents. Aiden's face turned pale. You can't prove anything. Actually, Maxime said, stepping forward, we can. My son may have been driving drunk that night, but the police are very interested in who told him to follow that car, and why. Aiden looked around the room, his gaze landing on the crowd, the paintings, the witnesses. You set this up, he said, his voice trembling. The gallery, the paintings, everything. No, Aiden, I said coldly. You set this up years ago, when you decided other people's lives were yours to ruin. Aiden lunged toward the centerpiece painting, but Colton moved quickly, stepping in front of him. Aiden's fist hit Colton's jaw instead of the canvas. Security rushed in, grabbing Aiden and restraining him as he shouted about lies and betrayal. They let him out, his words fading into the buzz of the shocked crowd. Alyssa emerged, her flawless makeup streaked with tears. I never knew, she said softly, about any of it, the women, the accidents, the baby. Would it have mattered? I asked. My tone made her flinch, her eyes flicking to my paintings as if finally seeing herself in them. The enabler, the keeper of masks. I'm sorry, she whispered, but I was already turning away. Colton touched his bruised jaw, managing a small smile. Hell of an opening night. I should explain, I started. You don't owe me explanations, he said, gesturing to the paintings. Your art already tells the truth. The real question is, what story do you want to tell next? I looked around the gallery, at the paintings, once full of pain but now transformed into something beautiful. At the women Aiden had hurt, now standing tall. At Maxime's proud smile. At Colton's steady, understanding eyes. Something new, I said finally. Something that isn't about masks or revenge. I'd like to hear that story, Colton said softly. For the first time since the accident, I felt truly seen. Not for my old face or my new one, but for the person I was beneath them both. So would I replied. I was ready to begin again. 2 years later, I stood in my small studio apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes and fresh paintings. These were different, no longer about masks or revenge. They captured healing, growth, and moments of unexpected joy, brought to life in color and light. On my desk sat a letter from Maxime, delivered earlier that morning. I had been too nervous to open it, but now felt like the right time. I unfolded the paper and began to read. Dear Audrey or Claire, you'll always be both to me now. My son came home yesterday, 5 months sober. He asked about you about the accident. I told him everything. About Aiden's manipulation, about your transformation, and about how your strength helped me find the courage to reconnect with him. He wants to apologize in person, but I told him that's your choice to make. Some scars need time to heal. Others teach us who we really are. Thank you for showing me that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about painting a better future. Maxime. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Colton stood there, paint-stained hands holding coffee and bagels. "Ready for moving day?" he asked with a grin. "Almost," I said, smiling back. I gestured at the mess around me. "Just reading a letter for Maxime. Some good news, some unexpected news." I touched my face. It wasn't the one I was born with, nor the one Aiden had destroyed. It was something entirely my own now. "His son wants to meet," I said softly. Colton sat down and began unpacking breakfast, giving me the quiet space I needed. That's what I loved about him. He understood the power of silence. After a while, he broke it gently. "The gallery called. They want to know if you're ready to show your new series." I glanced at my latest paintings. They were different. No darkness, no hidden meanings. Just light breaking through clouds, hands reaching out, faces emerging from shadows into the dawn. "I think I am," I said. I picked up my favorite piece, a self-portrait showing all 4 versions of myself. Not as masks, but as chapters in a longer story. This time, I added, under my real name. "Which one?"
Colton asked.
"Both," I said, smiling. "Bianca Claire Griffin." "No more hiding." He smiled back, understanding the weight of what I had just said. "And the meeting with Maxime's son?" he asked. "Maybe," I said, folding Maxime's letter carefully. Some stories need proper endings. My phone buzzed with a news alert. I opened it to find a headline about Aiden. He had pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges and several counts of harassment. The other women had come forward, each with their own stories of Saturday nights, threats, and accidents. Even Alyssa had testified against him. Colton glanced over my shoulder. "You know," he said, "your first show helped those women find their voices. They helped me find mine, too," I said, closing the article. I thought revenge would heal me, but it turns out telling the truth is what finally did. We spent the morning packing, carefully wrapping each painting. Colton handled them like treasures, not because of their value, but because they were pieces of my journey. Near sunset, we carried the last box to his truck. My new apartment was above his gallery, a space for both art and living. "A place to begin again," he said with a smile. "Oh," he added, reaching into his pocket, "this came to the gallery yesterday." He handed me a small package. Inside was my old wedding ring and a note from Alyssa. "I kept this when Aiden threw it away. It belonged to his grandmother, but it should have been yours. Sell it, keep it, whatever brings you peace." I'm learning that's what matters most. I held the ring up to the fading light. Once it had represented everything I thought I wanted. Now, it was just a circle of metal, heavy with history, but powerless to hurt me anymore. "What will you do with it?" Colton asked. I smiled, an idea forming. "I think I just found the centerpiece for my next show. Something about turning old pain into new beauty." He took my hand, the one that used to wear that ring, and kissed it softly. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Home. Not a place to hide, not a mask to wear, not a role to play. Just a space to be completely myself, scars, changes, strength, and all. "Yes," I said, leaving the past behind one last time. "I'm ready."